Right here. Well, welcome everyone to our webinar Wednesday. Today we have Kettering Health Network with us. Hold on. Oops. Before we get started, I do have a few things to share. You guys are all muted in case of background noise because this is being recorded and we will be put on our website later this afternoon. If you guys do have questions, please feel free to put them in the chat or unmute yourself at the end and ask them yourselves. Totally up to you on what you want to do. So with that, today we have Carrie Schilling, who is with Kettering Health Network. She specializes in mindfulness, breathing, and well-being. Today, Carrie is going to talk about how to manage your response to stressful situations. So with that, I'm just going to hand it over to you.
All right. Hello. Thank you, everyone, for joining in today. I'm very pleased that we were invited to come, and I'm always happy. This is a real passion of mine. So I am an RN with Kettering Health Network. I also am a massage therapist, and I teach meditation. And meditation has been, mindfulness meditation has been a passion of mine actually for more than 30 years now, long before it was in every flyer in the grocery store, in every magazine in the grocery store. It was something that I'm just naturally moved to many years ago. And what that did was drew me into, in my nursing career, I spent most of my nursing career working in psychiatric nursing, where stress management and stress detox was a significant part of what I did on a daily basis. So this has been a passion of mine for a very long time. And so I'm always excited to have an opportunity to talk about it. And normally we spend quite a bit of time about talking about what stress is, and that cortisol response, that stress hormone response that happens when we have stress in our lives. But it seems these days I don't really need to spend a whole lot of time talking about what stress is. I think we've all kind of got that by now, right? There's many things in our lives that can cause us stress. So we don't need to spend a lot of time talking about that. However, and speaking of stress, my slides are not, why are my slides not progressing when I touch this button? Okay, so I'll talk while she figures out how to change my slides. It worked earlier. There we go. Oh, now we're going to go all the way through. Back one more. Here we go. So that fight or flight response that we're all very accustomed to is a result of a cortisol dump. Cortisol is the stress hormone that will be dumped into the system when we have that that thing that occurs that causes that jump in our system that causes us to perceive a threat in some way. That fight or flight response is very beneficial. You've all heard this story before, right? The tiger chasing you in the woods or the bear in the woods. And we need that cortisol dump to get us prepared to run, to increase our heart rate, to increase our lung capacity, to increase those body functions that allow us to run or to fight. But when that bear in our life is the person we're waking up to in the morning, or the boss we're coming into, or the coworker we're coming into, or that bear is the traffic, or the taxes, or the bills, or the difficult children, that bear is just with us all day. What we get instead of that big dump of cortisol and adrenaline, we get that little trickle. What comes with that then are all of the same biological responses. And the increased heart rate, the increased respiratory rate is something that's more noticeable to us. But it also has a function of thickening our blood because we're prepared for injury. Our body is preparing for potential injury. So the blood's just a little more slightly thickened. The digestive system slows down. If you're getting ready to run or to fight, you don't need to be digesting the sandwich you ate for lunch. So with that small little trickle of cortisol comes the slowing of peristalsis in the digestive system. So how many people do you know in life now that are on the little purple pill, the Nexiums and the Prilisex and the medications for gastric indigestion and things. So all of these biological responses are feeding into not only our stress, right? And it's self-perpetuating with the stress, but it's also feeding into some of the the physiological, the diagnoses that we're seeing more commonly. So another one, another response, our body's response to that cortisol is higher brain function slows down. We're more in reptilian brain. We're more in survival mode brain. So that higher brain functioning, we don't need to do algebra when we're about to fight. So some of those more intricate brain functions are just hindered a little bit. What I like to focus on with folks is just the things we can do through the course of our day to bring ourselves more into this rest and digest mode. Fight or flight, that falls under our sympathetic nervous system. Sympathetic nervous system is what causes all of that survival mode stuff to happen. Parasympathetic nervous system is this rest and digest. Many times when people think about stress reduction techniques, it's something separate. It's just another thing you have to do in the course of our day. And that is just adding more stress to our day, to think that we need to find that separate 20 minutes to find stress reduction. So it's much more successful with my clients when we can talk about what are you bringing into the moments of your day. We all know how hard it is to change habits or to create new habits, but when we can just start to interject a minute here and there in our day and bring more of our body chemistry throughout the course of the day into this rest and digest, bringing ourselves more into the parasympathetic nervous system in little trickles through the course of the day, we can counter that little trickle of cortisol through the course of our day. So how do we do that? Aromatherapy has become huge lately. How many people have a little smelly candle or something at home that's nice? There's all of these little diffusers that folks have at their desks now. It just is a nice thing, right? But with the functional MRI, the advent of the fMRI, if you're familiar with, everyone's familiar with MRIs, right? Functional MRI allows us to look at the brain in lifetime, its action. And when we put someone into a functional MRI, into an MRI machine that measures the body's activity lifetime, and pump in the smell of liver and onions, we can predict how the brain's going to react. Then we pump in lavender. It stimulates the same areas of the brain that are active with the brainwave patterns that induce sleep. Lavender is very relaxing. Citruses, lemons, orange, grapefruits stimulate the brain. So in areas of the brain that we need that afternoon boost, lemon and citrus and grapefruit reliably, predictably stimulate those areas of the brain. Peppermint we use in the cancer centers for nausea. And in fact, we're using it post-surgically now for nausea as well. So there's something as simple as stimulating the olfactory nerve, the smell nerve, produces predictable patterns in the brain. So it's something that's just nice and it seems simple and smells good, but we can actually demonstrate now with scans, with pictures, how the brain tends to react. And there's a benefit that's predictable from person to person. So aromatherapy has just been very popular lately. Everybody seems to be very familiar. Movement meditations like yoga and Tai Chi, a walk in the park, getting out into nature. There's a big craze right now that is just getting your feet in the dirt, taking your shoes off and walking in the grass in your yard. That is gaining a lot of popularity. Those kind of things are wonderful for reducing our day-to-day stress or letting go of the day so you can get on to what you want to do for the evening. Prayer, self-talk, a hot bath to end our days are wonderful ways to let go of some of that stress. Time with friends is essential. having that support system. And that's challenging sometimes in our current situation, getting that time in with friends as well as family members. But as you can imagine, that since I have been a meditator for 30 years, that meditation tends to be my go-to. And all of these things that we talked about, that I've mentioned, are things that do take a little bit of time. You set aside that time, but all of those things can also be the focal point of your meditation. When I talk about meditation, what does it conjure to mind for you? So many people think of a set aside time, or the picture on the screen that you must sit in a lotus pose and close your eyes and have complete silence. But mindfulness meditation is something that we can bring into our everyday. I would encourage you for just a moment to think about some sets of words that have meaning to you. When I say peace and calm, serenity and clarity, maybe comfort and warmth, I used to live on the beach, and I can't visualize so well. And people say close your eyes or go to your happy place. That's not so easy for all of us. I don't close my eyes and picture the beach, right? I don't actually see that. But I can close my eyes and I can pick up on the blue of the sky and that white sand color and the emerald green of the water. So for me, the two words blue and green just take me right back to those shades of blue and green at the beach. Or simple is something as simple as in and out. You're breathing in and you're breathing out. So what I would encourage you to do right now is kind of come up with a couple of sets of words that mean something to you. Maybe that's two people you love. Maybe not your two teenage kids, because teenagers are not always relaxing, right? But those two people in your life that truly bring you centered into a comfortable place. And then for just a moment with me, I would encourage you to sit in a comfortable position in your chair, maybe put your feet on the floor. And if you would like, you can close your eyes, or you may just find a comfortable place a few feet in front of you to gaze and soften your eyes. And on your next inhale, I would encourage you to just think calm. And exhale peace. Inhale serenity. Exhale clarity. Inhale warmth and exhale comfort. Inhale blue, exhale green. Inhale and exhale. Coming up with your own set of words, your own 6 sets of words. Committing those to memory and using those 6 breaths through the course of your day. Before you get up and exit your office to walk into that difficult meeting, before you walk into that door where you know you're going to give that presentation or you have to speak at that meeting, before you get out of your car to go to the next location or the next activity of your day, that 1 minute, those 6 breaths, has been demonstrated to lower our cortisol through the course of the day. And those types of meditations, that 60-second meditation, can serve when we use that throughout the course of the day, when we feel that trigger of adrenaline start to move in our body. Using a simple meditation like breathing for 1 minute, but with intention, with focus, can serve the purpose of lowering our cortisol and not only give us the ability to clear our mind. So we're stimulating that higher brain function again, right? Bringing ourselves out of that reptilian brain and into the higher brain function. But it can also serve those physiological benefits we talked about earlier, increasing digestion, regulating blood consistency. Utilizing bringing into the current moment throughout the course of our day for both physiological and mental health, well-being purposes. This may have been Mark Twain, it may have been Winston Churchill, it may have been Yogi Berra. It depends on where you find it on the internet. It's attributed to a lot of people, but whoever it was wisely said, "I've known a great many troubles, but most of them never actually happened." We tend to spend a lot of our moments in our day creating stories in our mind. How is that conversation going to go? How is this project going to go? How is this next conversation or this presentation or this report going to be received? We spend a lot of moments of our day creating worries, creating stories in our head. The trick to that is the body doesn't recognize the difference between a real threat and a perceived threat. So the more time we spend creating the negative stories in our mind, the more we're triggering that same little cortisol trigger the cortisol trickle that's being created by the actual stresses in our life. So that near miss car accident, that near miss stepping out in front of traffic, that makes your heart trigger where you want their heart to trigger, creates the same response in our body as thinking about that difficult situation. So the more time we bring ourselves into the current, into the here and now, and stop that story in our head, or bring ourselves into the pleasant thoughts, the more time we can spend our day in the rest and digest in the parasympathetic nervous system versus the sympathetic nervous system. There are many definitions of mindfulness that you will find. UCLA tends to be the kind of the leader right now on mindfulness research, paying attention to the present moment experience with openness, curiosity, and a willingness to be with what is. Again, bringing ourselves into this current moment. With an openness and curiosity means we're not necessarily trying to control that or to change that, just seeing what is. And just an acceptance of that. So I would invite you, again, if you're inclined, to find that comfortable place in your chair again. And if you can have both feet on the floor, that's best, but wherever's most comfortable for you. There's no proper, correct way or place to bring yourself into the current moment. Honor your body. If you have back issues or shoulder issues, get into that comfortable position. But try to find that place where you are in a kind of good alignment, what Jon Kabat-Zinn would have called a dignified posture. And simply, again, soften your eyes or close your eyes if you would like. And what I would invite you to do at this moment is just notice your breath. Don't necessarily change your breath, but just notice your breath. And for the next moment, notice what sounds, what noises are in your environment. Perhaps you hear the ventilation system humming. Perhaps you hear voices in the hallway. There's no need to hear what they're saying. There's no need to understand. There's no need to be a part of that conversation. You're just noticing there's voices. Perhaps you hear traffic outside your building. Cars are coming and going. You don't need to have an involvement with that. It's just traffic noise. Now I would invite you to move your awareness to what aromas are in your environment. What are you smelling? Perhaps it's your lunch waiting for you on your desk. Perhaps you have a good smelling aroma oil in your office. Perhaps it's your coffee. And I would invite you now to feel the weight of your feet on the floor. Do you notice any tingly energy sensation in your feet and your ankles? Bring your awareness up your calves and your shins and into your knees. Can you feel the energy in your knees? Can you relax your knees and just allow your legs to fall out? Bringing your awareness up through your thighs and feel the support of the chair on the back of your legs. Bringing your awareness through your hips, through the very low back. What do you feel there? What do you discover there? Bringing your awareness up through the mid-back, between your shoulder blades, the upper back. With your next inhale, let that whole upper back area relax into the back of your chair. Bringing your awareness through the top of your shoulders and up through your neck. Is there tension in your shoulders you can release? Your jaw. Relax your jaw. Bringing your awareness to your eyelids and your eyebrows and your forehead. Relax your forehead and eyebrows. Bringing your awareness to breath. Breathing in, breathing out. When you're ready, start to open your eyes again and notice with intention, notice the colors as you open your eyes. What brightly color object? Where is the source of the light in your environment? So that was just 5 minutes or so of kind of combining the five senses with a little bit of a body scan. 5 minutes or so of time on your lunch break, or again, when you know you're having an unnecessarily stressful day, to take that 5 minutes out of your hectic state to try to regroup the mind and body. Simply bringing the attention to the present moment experience. Openness, curiosity, just a willingness to be with what is. Mindfulness is really about that activity of keeping our thoughts on the here and now. Keeping our thoughts on this current moment. Anxiety and stress generally live in past moments and future moments. Sitting right here, right now in your current world, you're comfortable, the temperature's okay, nothing's chasing you, you're fed. There's not many things in our current here and now moments that would cause that adrenaline rush. It's our thought process most of the time in our world. It's our thought process of moments past or moments to come that bring us into that fight or flight state. So the more moments in the course of our day that we spend present with ourselves and all of our senses, again, the more time we spend in rest and digest. That has physiological, mental health benefits, wellness benefits across the board for ourselves and for everyone else around us. So, any questions for me? What was it like to spend a few moments of, normally I start a class by asking if anyone has experience with meditation. So I guess, does anyone have a experience with meditation they'd like to share, or have thoughts about the two very brief little meditations we just did?
I found it refreshing. And I've done it before, and I just feel, I was already feeling good, and I'm like, oh, I hope that all of you on the call are feeling as calm and serene and relaxed, but also energized. I hope.
Hope, yeah.
I thought it was great. I feel more peaceful.
More peaceful, yeah, yeah. There, I teach with I have a private practice as well. So I work with a number of executives and folks with very stressful jobs. And there are a number of great resources out there. The very brief little 6 pairs of words that I mentioned is one that I use with a lot of my folks, executive level folks, just because that's something they can carry with them in the elevator, in their car before they get out to go to the next location. And what they're often surprised about is how it does help that mental focus. We think of meditation as something that's, helps you sleep, it helps you get calm and chill, but really one of the major benefits is just bringing us into awareness and helping us get into that flow that we so often need in our jobs. So it's about becoming alert as well.
Ernie, did you have something to say?
Sorry. The only thing I was going to say is I'm using Noom's program for dieting, and they go through like weekly lessons on different things. So like after they got through a lot of the food things, they went into a lot of the breathing and meditation and all that kind of stuff. So I'm trying to do that more, but I don't do it enough.
Yeah, finding ways to do it through the course of the day is so beneficial. I mean, there's definite benefit to finding your pillow practice, right? To finding your actual meditation time, that seated meditation. It's like anything else. The more you become comfortable with it, the more easily you can slip into it. I have meditated literally in the waiting room at the auto mechanics while Price is Right is playing on the television, just to try to get my brain straight for emails that I was trying to work on in that crowded and hectic environment. But I've been doing this for a very long time. So the more you practice, it's like anything else, the easier you can just kind of slip your body into that because it's a familiar feeling. But that just isn't reality for most of us. Unless you have a real passion for it, it just isn't reality. What's more real is to find times in the course of your day that triggers you to spend that 1 minute. Mindfulness is something that carries through, like you mentioned, Noom. That's a wonderful program. And we talk now about mindful eating. We just do everything so distracted these days. And the more time we spend bringing ourselves into what we're doing. John Kabat-Zinn was kind of the godfather of meditation in the United States. Back in the 70s, he brought a 3,000-year-old Buddhist practice of mindfulness to the United States, and he cleaned it all up of any spiritual practice, and he codified it, and he put it in these eight or nine, I think it's eight classes of mindfulness, and that way we could study it, we could look at it. So 30 years ago when I first started meditation, well, if you could have done a Google search, we didn't have Google searches back then, but if you did a lit search back then, you would only find maybe 100 studies on mindfulness and meditation. And now you can't get away from it. There's thousands and thousands of studies, and it's like I said, it's in every magazine and the checkout at the grocery store. Everyone's talking about it. But John Kabat-Zinn had a practice with a raisin. One single raisin. And if you ever take one of his classes, it's well worth it. MBSR, mindfulness-based stress reduction. You spend literally like 15 minutes eating one raisin. He has you pick it up and feel it, like feel the crunch, feel the texture of the raisin in your hands, and you spend a few seconds with that, and then you bring it close enough that you can smell it, and then you're spending a minute with just the smell of that raisin. Raisins are incredibly sweet. You don't realize that when you're eating them a box at a time, but when you take one at a time and spend that minute just smelling the sweetness, and then you touch it to your lips, and once you touch it to your lips, you notice how your mouth starts watering. You've activated those salivary glands, right? Amylase is an enzyme that's in our salivary glands. We can measure levels of stress by the level of amylase in our saliva. Anyway, it's this whole process of eating one raisin, and you chew it. You chew it till you have raisin juice before you swallow. When we can take that practice and apply that to just our lunch and our dinner, not that we're going to take 45 minutes to eat lunch and dinner, although that would be much healthier for us. We're not likely to do that. But when we can bring that level of mindfulness into simple things like eating, it's a natural calorie controller, right? We eat mindlessly so much. We're just throwing stuff back in our world. So bringing those practices of mindfulness through everything that we're doing benefits our physical health as well as weight and just relationships and all of it. I kind of lost track of where I was going with all of that. But so John Kabat-Zinn, if anyone's ever interested, there's a book called Full Catastrophe Living was kind of the book that kicked it all off here in the United States. And it's still to this day a great beginner book. Full Catastrophe Living, it's a very easy read. You can get on audiobook. Another one I love to refer to is Dan Harris's work. Dan Harris is he's a war correspondent. He's on Good Morning America. If anybody actually has free time in the morning and they watch Good Morning America, he is a correspondent, whatever, on that show. And he had been a war correspondent in Afghanistan and came back and didn't deal with some of the things that he saw. And he ended up having a panic attack on live television while he was doing an interview. And so it exposed him to mindfulness in his journey of trying to deal with some of the PTS stuff he was dealing with. And he wrote a book called 10% Happier, which is very good. But he also wrote a book called Meditation for Fidgety Skeptics, which I often use for my folks that are not too sure about this woo-woo stuff. They just don't quite see that could benefit them. Dan Harris writes this coming from a perspective of a reporter and war correspondent. He's not coming from a real spiritual side of things, and so he has a way of looking at that's very convincing for folks that need some convincing. Any other comments or questions?